Coach Schuman here. We're back. We got a great episode today with Coach Coby Gipson from Lamar University, FCS program on the rise. He's the assistant head coach there. Coach has been, obviously, as a lot of college coaches have been, some different places. He was high school-wise. He was at Bishop Gorman for a while, where he coached a ton of Division I kids. Really moved up in the ranks and has really grown as a coach. And he's the assistant head coach there at Lamar. Really starting to build the foundation there. And, he's been at East Baptist University. He's been at East Tennessee Baptist. He's really been in a lot of places. East Texas Baptist, I said Tennessee. East Texas Baptist University. He's been at Grace Community. So Coach is really, really and he's coached a lot of different positions as well. And I think, that's the fortitude and perseverance you need in coaching to really fight through it in college coaching. And now he's the assistant head coach, really a fast rising coach within the industry. Let's bring on Coach Coby Gipson. Coach, what's going on?
All right, good morning, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate you coming on, Coach. We know it's a busy season, so appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Nothing better to talk about than this great game of football and building relationships and what it can do in a young man's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's that's been, I went through a lot of your Twitter and stuff, and that's a big theme with you from a coaching standpoint. I touched a little bit on your background. If you could go a little bit more in depth on your coaching background, your journey, and then we'll roll.
Sure. Really, my first full-time coaching job was at Grace Community, and I'd met a guy there named Mike Maddox that had just started the program there. So that was a startup program. And that will continue a trend throughout my career of, programs that I've been to. I've either been in a situation where you needed to put a foundation down or you needed to tear down what was already built on a foundation and rebuild. That's what I've really enjoyed doing throughout my career so far. So Grace Community, I was there for 6 years. I was the offensive coordinator there. Really moved across town to the crosstown rival, Bishop Gorman after that, where I was the head coach for 5 years and gained some really, really valuable experience there and two really great communities. And at that time, I could probably still be there doing that and really enjoying that. But I just had a really burning drive to be a college football coach. And my wife and I, we sat down probably a couple of years, 2 or 3 years before I went to Howard Payne, and we're just like, if this is an opportunity that needs to present itself, we would really enjoy that. And if not, we're just going to be where our feet are and continue plugging along. And Braxton Harris called me when he got the job at Howard Payne, and he's now the head coach at Campbell University, and asked me to come be his offensive coordinator, assistant head coach. And what a move that was, and very positive there. And then moved on to my first recruiting coordinator job at East Texas Baptist, and really learned a lot there. And I've been able to work for some really, really good head coaches that have really invested in me as a young coach and even as a middle-aged coach, I guess. So for me, that was a great beginning to my college football career at those two spots. And then I've been at Lamar since 2020 and seen a lot here, learned a lot here, grown a lot here, had some great experiences here, built some really good relationships. And now I'm the receivers coach, I'm the recruiting coordinator, and I'm the assistant head coach. So we've really enjoyed our time in Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah, and Beaumont, Texas is East Texas, correct?
That's Southeast Texas.
Right, exactly. And the head coach there is that Pete Rosamondo?
It is Pete Rosamondo. He came. This will be his second season coming up.
Okay, yeah. So he I think he's an East Coast guy, Northeast guy originally, right? He was, I can't remember where he was head coach before. I want to say it was somewhere in the Northeast.
He's actually from Long Island, New York, and he's
New Haven guy, maybe New Haven University.
He was at Albany.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
Albany. Yep, and I think University of New Haven before that. Yep. Okay, now
Right.
Yeah. And was it Rutgers maybe for a while, or
He was at Rutgers and coached there, and then I believe he was at Central Connecticut State, where he really turned that program around.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. He was in the Northeast Conference at Central Connecticut State. That's right. And he probably brought that's probably how he got Will Fleming over there too to Lamar from because I think he was at Rhode Island or something like that for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So East Texas, which is just for people to be familiar on the podcast, East Texas is Southeast Texas, Southeast Texas.
Southeast. Yep.
Yeah, Southeast Texas is on his way towards Louisiana, right? On the way towards like Shreveport um uh and so the difference in where everything is, like where people are familiar from a Texas standpoint, um you know that the old famed Tyler, Texas is East Texas, and from a high school standpoint, but there's lots and lots of space in between. So talk about what the Texas football landscape is like, because it was just a question I had the other day. Wow, there's a lot of great football players in Texas. Yes, and there's a lot of schools for them to play in Texas. And the answer is yes, there is a lot of places for them to be able to go. Talk about the landscape of Texas college football.
As far as Texas college football and where we are, like you talked about, being really close to the Louisiana border in East Texas. I saw a graphic the other day in Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine where 332 FBS players came out of the state of Texas, and that was number one in the country. And they're really the hotbed spots of being Dallas, Houston, East Texas, on into Central Texas, Austin, San Antonio. And so we are in a really great spot because there is not a long drive to get to a lot of really good players. And so for us, it's a great recruiting ground. We can be a regional recruiting school, maximize our resources, and really play in a regional conference, which we really like, where families can be with us every Saturday. There's not really a long drive. There's not really a 2-day trip for a conference game. And so in the Southland Conference where we are, we feel like it's a great regional Division I conference with great matchups every Saturday. And we're right in a recruiting hotbed where these coaches are coaching these kids really well. They're really developing their players 12 months a year, essentially. And so football is really important here. And for some kids in the area that I recruit, specifically East Texas, football is what has allowed them to get a high school diploma. And kept them off the streets and kept them making good decisions. And so with football being so important, more than just the scoreboard, this is a really great place to build a program because they understand what the impact is. And we have great high school coaches that prepare them in a way that they can handle college football.
Dave Campbell's book, his magazine, is going back to when I was a kid. It was the first magazine. I couldn't believe that I'm sure most of it's digital now, but I couldn't believe that a magazine could have an in-depth analysis of every single high school program in the state. And from a recruiter standpoint, obviously, you open up that magazine and you literally have a listing of every single player because he's breaking down every single school, the whole entire state. It was amazing. It's one of the things that I always thought. We used to order it when I was in high school, and maybe when I was in middle school, just so I could read through all the. I'm from New Jersey, so I could read through all the different Texas players. It was such an amazing thing, and to this day, obviously, it's now been bought up by bigger companies, but it's an amazing thing the way they cover Texas football. Talk about kind of your journey. So you talked about how you were at Bishop Gorman, which everybody knows Bishop Gorman, in high school football landscape, and the transition from going from a high school really to university. What was that transition like for you and your family as a coach, and what were some of the things that you really had to get up to speed on?
Yeah, some of it was really tough, and some of it was really positive as far as that goes. It is different for a family when you go from, we had games every Thursday night. We had games on Friday night in football. I coached the second sport. I was also the head track coach. And so that took up 2 nights a week in the spring. And I also taught American history, which I love American history and I love teaching, but that was just still something else on my plate. So as far as that goes, and I ran our summer strength and conditioning program. I was the director of strength and conditioning there as well. So the first time I ever had a spring break was when I was a college football coach. And so that was different. And that was something that, really it's allowed us to have more family time. My wife and I have 3 children, two young boys and then a teenage girl. And so that aspect has been really good. And so, every Thursday night as a high school football coach, your football marathon, and love that, love being part of the younger kids' life. But as a college football coach, you get Thursday nights with your family. And so those things have been really nice. You have to adjust the recruiting side of it. I'm going to be gone 8 weeks a year, looking to find players and build our program. And fortunately for me, I have a wife and a family that's very understanding of that. And they know that is the lifeblood of what our program is. And so, those 8 weeks are going to be tough, but it's different because it's allowed us more other opportunities for our family to grow and to have experiences together. So, there was an adjustment period, but the recruiting side of it specifically was really the draw in the first place. And so we kind of knew what that meant. We had sent some players to college in the programs that I had been in, and just felt like there was a way maybe to do things relationally where a player could really still feel their value as a person and as a player at the college level. And maybe had some players that didn't quite experience that when they did go to the next level. So it's been a great move. We really enjoyed it. And, it's just, again, be where your feet are. And it can be an amazing experience wherever you are, whether you're coaching 7th grade football, Southland Conference football in the NFL, coaching's coaching. And there's people that need you in their life.
Absolutely. And you guys play a pretty good schedule there. You got some really good teams on the schedule, some traditional powerhouse teams, the old McNeese and Stephen F. Austin, Central Arkansas, and Southeastern Louisiana. I mean, there's a gauntlet of different schools. You're playing a Division I team in Texas State in the first game. Talk about what you said recruiting was the big allure for you. Talk about what gets you so excited and what you enjoy most about recruiting, because you always hear in coaches, there are coaches that love recruiting and there are coaches that want to coach the kids like that as their only thing. And there are guys that love both, right? Talk about what it is for you.
For me, it's this. It's a kid, a young man has put in a lot of work. A lot of his time in high school has been spent being developed as an athlete, being developed as a student, and then they come to love and respect this game of football. Well, for most players that are entering their senior year of high school, for 90%, 94% to be exact, players that are entering their senior year of high school, they're going into their last year to ever do this. And so for me, it's not like basketball or baseball. And I love baseball. I was a baseball player growing up, and I love basketball. I love all sports, but you can be in a rec league and still play basketball. You can go play baseball. You cannot just put on the pads and go play football once it's over. When it's over, it's over. So being able to sit down on a couch in a living room with a young man and his family who aren't quite sure of his next spot or his next destination or his next move, they've always kind of know what grade is next. Now I'm going to go to 10th grade. Now I'm going to go to 11th grade. Now I'm going to 12th. And now here there's like, what am I going to do next year? So, no matter the level, it is always a rewarding experience to offer a young man a chance to play football at the next level, because so few do it. And they've been dreaming about doing that for a long, long time. So having that conversation is a really rewarding thing when you can say, yes, you are going to get to play the sport you love another 4 years. All right. And then obviously moving to Lamar, where you can say, and we are going to pay for your tuition fees, room and board. And you see the emotion that generates, because they go from not knowing how we're going to pay for this, or even if you can go to college, to football has paved a way for you to create value in your life for another 4 or 5 years. That is an awesome conversation. And that fires me up. And that gets me up in the morning and gets me going to go find the next best fit for Lamar University, and to be able to bring someone in that can have a life-changing experience on and off the field.
Yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. Football obviously is not something that's given beyond high school. In the overwhelming vast majority, 95% of them don't ever get a chance to go on. The ones that do, you're really an elite player. And Derek talks about this all the time, right? No matter what the level is, to be able to get an opportunity, and obviously to be able to get a scholarship to a place like Lamar makes a huge difference. Talk about how the transfer portal. I see you guys have some guys that have come from other places. On your roster. Talk about how your recruiting mix goes from that standpoint between transfer portal and high school players. And we just saw that there's, the NCAA is going to add, 100 to go up to 105.
105, yeah.
100. Yep. So, and so that's really interesting. Talk about though the mix of what you guys have between transfer portal and high school kids, and kind of how you guys approach it.
Yeah. Okay. And so in the last cycle here, I would tell every single high school coach that I've been in their office, and every single high school player, this is you need to know the ratio of high school to transfer players, especially in this whole camp season. This whole camp thing has blown up, right? So everybody that comes into that high school is going to be like, come to camp, come to camp, come to camp. And we are no different. We are big believers in camp. We are big believers that what you can see, some of the layers you can peel back by being on the field with a young man can reveal a lot about him and whether he's a good fit or not for the school. So if I'm going to pay gas money to drive somewhere, or I'm going to go spend an afternoon, then I have a cost for going to the camp, whether that's the entry fee, the time spent, food on the road, whatever it is. So we want to really educate our student athletes that when you are doing that, you better do your research and you better have some statistics to prove this is a great use of my time. So last year we signed 21 high school football players, one of the tops in the state of Texas. All right. We signed 7 transfers. So we are a 3-to-1 high school to transfer recruiting team. And that is something that every player, every parent, every high school coach needs to know before they arrange a summer schedule or a fall game day visit schedule, or just when they're talking about where are my real opportunities, because we all know there's a lot of offers out there that they can pick up the phone and they're going to be told, we're
smoke and mirrors.
So for us, it's about educating those student athletes and about being committed to the high school recruiting process. We are a recruit, a re-recruit, and developmental team. And I hate to use the word retain. Retain just means see if you can hold on to them. I like the term re-recruit. I mean, my energy when they enter the building as a player should be the same as my energy when they enter the building as a recruit. And if I can't get that done, then I need to go sell insurance. And so for me, that is where the whole thing is about developing players, making sure they understand before they make decisions as a high schooler where the colleges are that are still offering scholarships to high school football players. So we're a 3-to-1 high school to transfer recruiting team right now.
And Coach, let me ask you a question. Is that because because that's obviously, as we can see this whole transfer portal process, we see guys and we've talked to a bunch of coaches and it's, hey, we're not recruiting as many high school guys anymore. It's mainly a lot of transfers and whatnot. Is it because your geographic location of some of those top high school players that you're a 3-to-1 ratio, or is that just the staff mentality?
I think it's a combination of both. Yes, we have access to a lot of high school players that are really good football players and really good people. And so we've enjoyed that aspect of it. And I think we're reaping some of the fruits of our labor and our plan.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we had, and I'm not saying this as in, oh, look at how great our players are and how good we're going to be. I'm not saying that. We had 12 players on the preseason Southland all-conference team. 8 of those 12 were high school freshmen. 2 of the others are going to exhaust all their eligibility with us, and we had 2 junior college transfers. So 2 portal transfers, 2 junior college transfers, 8 high school players of our 12 preseason all-conference players. So I think there's a lot of fruit out there in high school recruiting. I think the portal can be really good. I don't see the portal as negative. I see the portal as being able to give a fresh start to someone who needs it. Maybe they don't fit the scheme of a new coach. Maybe a family dynamic has changed. They need to get closer to home. Maybe they just need a fresh start for whatever the reason is. And I think as long as you vet the player and you do your background work, then you can find good fits in the transfer portal. Because if you lose someone that has experience, then chances are you need to bring someone in that has some college experience. And we've been able to do that strategically.
And Lamar is a public university, right? So
yes, sir.
For Texas players,
Oh yeah, that's a
That's
smart move.
that's an in-state university, so that those relationships really are really valuable. Talk about how, and you touched upon it, and having run a lot of camps in Texas, and seeing what the high school facilities are like, they're second to none, especially at the big schools. Um, Texas football, what is it that they do in Texas to develop players that is really, really unique, that makes it a situation where you can continue to grab high school players and know that they're going to be able to come in and do the job and be ready to go?
You mentioned that like the facilities, all right, and there is, especially at the upper echelon of high school football in terms of school size and resources, you can walk into some great facilities like football stadium, weight room setup, indoor stadiums, and some of those schools have it. In actuality, the percentage of those that have those that you see pictures of on Twitter, when you take into consideration all the schools in Texas, it's probably a pretty low percentage still. Really high compared to other states, but still pretty low. But what Texas has done that is really, really good is, to me, they have taken care of coaches, which allows coaches to coach high school football at a full-time level, be there in the hallways with their players every day, and then they've given them the athletic period. And so with the athletic block they have at school, they have an hour to an hour and a half daily all year long to invest in the physical development of these student athletes. And most of the coaches I know in Texas have really done a great job of promoting multi-sport athletes with a foundation of strength and conditioning development in the athletic block. So these kids are being developed where they can play and recover, and they can continue to gain strength and continue to maximize their speed and explosiveness. And to me, what that has done with the multi-sport approach and the strength conditioning approach, it has really been able to max out the potential of the athletes in the school, because now you have a guy that maybe basketball is his number one sport, but he knows his buddy whose football is his number one sport is going to go help him on the basketball court, so he's going to go help him on the football field. And really, from the 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A level, that is priceless to have that type of setup. And Texas high schools have done a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time too. Like, I mean, you look at, here in, if we're in, talking our Northeast corridor, coaches have so many other things on their plate, right? And it's, you're like you said, you were coaching track, you're teaching, subjects and whatnot, and that stuff all matters here. Where football is kind of like, it's kind of just like a hobby or something else that you can add on for a stipend position in terms of gaining that extra income, from being a teacher. But we talk about it all the time. If you want to be a true high school football coach, you go to Texas where, like you said, they're allotted extra time to put into those student athletes in order to make, them reach their full potential.
No question.
So, it's just something that we always battle back and forth with in terms of, I mean, how many times do you see the football coach who's, he's coaching a winter sport, he's coaching a summer sport, but or a spring sport, and at the same time, he's got to handle all of that other recruiting stuff that goes along with his football team. I just think that with the way so many more things have now been added onto, a head football coach's plate, for him to not be allotted that time is just doing such a disservice. Where, even, and we also see a lot now, like your assistant coaches here, they may not be in the building, right? They may be doing something else. And, you can't give them the responsibilities that another assistant coach in the building, and then just the kids in general, like they want to see their football coach out there doing more for them, and investing in them. The same with the parents. It's just, we talk about it all the time. It's just such a disservice. I wish there was something to be done. I hope that moving forward, we can all kind of look at Texas high school football and say, hey, this is a model that we need to kind of follow in terms of whatever. But, I think that's also something that's, we're wishing for and hoping it happens, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you go to the smallest schools of Texas, and the football coach is the football coach. Rarely will they have any other responsibilities. You move up higher in level, and you're going to start getting head coaches and coordinators, maybe even a special teams coordinator, maybe even a recruiting coordinator that is out of the classroom. But they're there all day long. And so that really allows you to develop your program.
Yeah, and build relationships, right? Because
absolutely.
You can
And
see the
not just
kids, you can
relationships
grab
with the
them. Yep,
players, right?
right.
Like now you can build those relationships with those college coaches that are calling on the regular, or a strength guy. It allows you to go, just further your, you can go to football clinics, you can go to strength and conditioning clinics, you can get out there and do other things that now you can bring back to your program to just kind of improve it.
Absolutely.
As far as like what you guys, how you kind of approach camp and how you guys approach your season, how do you guys structure? Because things have changed so much over the years with respect to coming into camp and what you what you do versus 20 years ago. What is Lamar's approach to camp, and how do you guys put them through it, and what's the approach through camp?
As opposed to a recruiting camp or like a fall camp?
Well, fall camp. When
Yep.
when your players come back on campus.
Right. So, to me, that's just the most crucial 3-week period of the entire season. And to me, it's where, yes, it's about spending time together. Yes, it's about getting better at football, but ultimately it's about building your team. And so there's no other time of the year that they're going to be able to spend as much time in the building as they are during those 3 weeks. And so what we do is we do, because we're in Southeast Texas, we have a morning practice. And, we are in a situation where here, as far as following protocol, about 10:30 in the morning is going to be where we are told by our athletic trainers that we can't be on the field. So we are going to do that in the morning. So we're going to start out with we're going to provide breakfast. We're going to get taping going and weigh-ins and things like that. And we're going to have a position meeting. And then we'll go hit the field for practice. Right after practice, our players are released to go to the dining hall to eat lunch, and followed by a little bit of time off while the coaches are grading the practice film and getting ready for the afternoon meeting. They come back with work with our director of sport performance, Pat Walker, who's an incredible director in that area. And then we'll go right into a position meeting, and then we'll go into a special teams meeting before dinner. When we come back from after dinner, we get into a special teams meeting again right before we go for a walkthrough on the field. And so that's how we have been able to get a little more field time. And then we finish off with a meeting at night. So we have 2 different schedules that we juggle every other day. But all those factors that I mentioned will be in that period. So we're on the field probably 7:30 in the morning and 8:30 at night to try to take care of our players and give them a chance to recover. And so during the course of the day, we'll have 3 different position meetings, a team meeting, a special teams meeting. And then one of those nights, the night we don't go on the field, we'll have some team building, some team camaraderie, introduction of the freshmen. Competitions among position groups, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that's a big shift, obviously, that's happened in the last decade, which is really much more in meetings time than on the field. Yeah, a lot more mental preparation. And how does that? How have you had to adapt? So, I mean, how do you get players? And obviously, you guys do a walkthrough at night, and right before they're probably going to do the install of whatever the next day, right? But how do you go and get them to retain things when you don't have as much on the field time? And how do you get them to really kind of get focused on that? Is technology a big part of that? Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, technology is not obviously a big part of that, because they can bring up practice on their phone. They can bring up drills that we've done. We are very fortunate to where we can get all of our individual drills filmed, and we can point out this was a good drill, awesome. This was not a good drill. And so we will watch that in the meeting room, but we'll send it to them as well. I'm in a situation where I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that I have an incredible assistant receivers coach, typically known as a graduate assistant. But I don't like referring to him as a GA. I like referring to him as my assistant, because he's really sharp and really strong in the area that you're talking about. So one of his jobs every day is to make a cut up of this is what went well. This is what did not go so well. Awesome. This is what we need to improve on tomorrow. And so I preparing him for his first full-time job, I like to give him a piece of the meeting, and that's his piece of the meeting, is to hit the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so everybody sees, yes, this is what we want. This is what we don't want. This is how we can improve. So to me, that's really important to be very. You can't just. Let's be honest. I mean, you can't just roll into a meeting and wing it. You better be really intentional with your planning on what you want to talk about and what you want to accomplish. So one of my goals for a meeting is to be able to hit every type of learning style. And for me, that I'm a very visual learner. When I was a young coach, I probably coached visual learners really well, and the others probably not very good. So
that's that teacher in you, Coach. That's that teacher.
That's
in you,
right.
Man.
That's right. I think you got to have that. So I don't ever let them sit down very long in the meeting room.
Nope.
I'm a grown adult, and it's really hard for me to listen to somebody talk for 20 minutes. So I don't want to stand up there and ramble and lecture them. That's not what they're looking for. So we want to be really interactive. We want to really get the kids involved in the process. We want them to talk. We want them to draw. We want them to move so that they can get an auditory view, a visual view, and a kinesthetic learning option. And so our meetings are going to be really interactive. The guy that meets next to me probably wants to bang on the wall and say, "Hey, can y'all quiet down in there?" But when we get up and we're going, it's not just me up there talking.
Right. And I think that's like, but that's also knowing your players, right? And knowing exactly what they need to be at their to perform at their highest level. I saw an interview the other day with Aaron Rodgers, and he was talking about that whole thing. Like, training camp's not hard anymore, right? And he was talking about, back in the day, physically, it was so demanding that it was, this way. And now, just with the way things are now, it's, now it's demanding, but in a mental way. So the physicality of camp itself. And look, you also know you're trying to bridge a gap between a guy who's, he's a fifth-year guy and he's been through it a whole bunch. And then you got a freshman coming in that's like shell-shocked, trying to just get adjusted away from being home. Now he's sitting through meetings, right? And all this other kind of stuff. If you can hit on every one of those, ways of learning, that now, we all know you do one way, you get, that percentage of the room. You do it another way, you get that percentage of the room. And you got to hit on every one of those guys. Now you're getting them up, they're moving, right? They've been through, it's a long day, and now we're sitting through meetings, they're trying to retain this. But I think, one of the great things, and fortunate for you, having that assistant/GA guy, and kudos to you for allowing him, to get up there and do his thing, where now not only is he presenting it, but now your players see him as more of a formal coach and not just some guy drawing up cards.
Yeah, you're right. And I was very, very fortunate to have him. And, I think you said a lot right there. And I would encourage anyone listening, if you have someone in that spot, sometimes you got to let them make mistakes on the fly. But in the end, they're going to be better for it. Your group's going to be better for it. And, that's part of this job too, is it's not just about developing players. It's about developing coaches. We need to keep this thing going in the right direction for a long, long time, because there's nothing like this game of football. But some of that is on us that have been coaching for a while to be able to develop and bring those guys along so we can keep this game going.
Absolutely, because there's no doubt. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. No, I think when you talk about the intentionality of everything that you do, whether it's on the field or in the meeting room, I think that's a huge thing that coaches have changed dramatically over the years, where everything has a focus, right? There's not a generality to your practice. There's not a generality to what you do. And where one of the things that athletes who maybe listen to this and parents maybe listen to it, now in Texas, obviously you have a lot of great coaching, but throughout the country, there's a lot of great coaches, but there are things that are very different in the fact that there's different levels, right? High school is different level than college. And the more that coaches start to go to intentionality in everything they do, a focus and a plan in everything they're doing at the high school level, players will be better prepared for college, because that's the biggest theme that I know. Like the meetings, we talked about the meetings, having them draw on the board, having them talk about what they see and why it's a mistake or why it's good. And that engagement makes a huge difference, because this is who the kids are now. That's what they look for, is engagement. That's what's on their phone. That's what's what they're doing when they go play video games. That's how you have to teach them if you're in the classroom, because engagement is the big thing that keeps them drawn in. And I think that's a huge thing that's changed over the years with coaches and relating to players is that intentionality, because it keeps it focused and it keeps it lively, and it keeps guys like, because that is the hardest thing about college football, and the hardest thing about transitioning from being a really good high school player, they got a scholarship to go to college, to becoming a great player in college, is the ability to leverage the physical part of it, the demands on that, and the mental part of it, and to be able to stay engaged, because and the coaches that help the players along figuring that part out on their road really get the most out of the players. That's what I've seen. Like, you go back and you see like old videos of Nick Saban, right? When he's running around, when he's with the DBs, how engaged he is. Yeah,
Right.
This is the head coach, right? Legendary, not just legendary, arguably the greatest college football coach of all time. So, but engaged with them, holding them accountable. And that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but like the intention, I love that word. Intentionality holds them accountable, because they have to know the things that they have to know, and they're engaged to do so. Talk about how important that is in everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is about having great clarity, and for me, if I was hiring coaches and ranking coaches or whatever, I try to determine someone's strength, and so to me, like clarity, competency, and connection. Those are 3 ways that you can rate yourself as a coach. And, for me, I believe through the years I've been able to evolve into having really good clarity with my players. And so they know the expectations, they know the standards, and they know exactly what is supposed to happen on the field. And, we've tried to build the room like that. And I think that's one thing that Pete Rosamondo does an incredible job of in this program is the standard is the standard. The standard is that every day. And if you don't meet the standard, then there's a consequence for not meeting the standard. And we're going to have great communication and what that is and what that looks like. And so one of the ways that we try to be really intentional and bridge that gap between those 5-year players and the first-year players is my assistant and I are going to grab a freshman, maybe 2, after each practice of fall camp, and we're going to keep them for 3 minutes. I mean, nothing long, nothing, but we're going to pour into them one-on-one. Get them a ball catching drill, get them a stance and start drill, get them an angle blocking drill if they're something they're struggling with, so they know, hey, that coach took time. He was intentional with me to help me get better, and now I have a great clarity of what that expectation is for the next practice. And then sometimes I will dismiss my veteran guys at the night meeting and just keep my freshmen around for 10 minutes and say, how are you doing? How is this transition going for you? Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything that's tough for you? Is there something going on back at home that is causing you to have a distraction? And so I think being able to do that has really paid dividends through the years. And yes, we want to be very competent in our jobs. We want to have great connection with our players, but we want them to have great clarity in what the mission is.
Right. And I think, Coach, ultimately, and you kind of set that from the jump, right? Like in recruiting itself, hey, if you come to this program, this is what's going to be expected of you. And, if not, we need to have a conversation, right? And then once you get them in the building, hey, you continue to develop that clarity with them and the open communication, because this is, these are the players, and this is what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with kids who have been communicated with from the jump through a screen, right? And, that's just how they communicate. And we need to kind of open that up a little bit, sit them down, have those conversations with them. And like you said, I just feel like this new level of, player that's coming out now, these are guys that have been talked to. They've had those extra conversations. They've asked why questions. They're not just hey, coach told me to do this, I'm going to go do it just because, right?
Right.
They're very much more aware of everything else that's going around them. And that's why I love that you brought up the clarity aspect of it too, because, we're in a why generation. These guys ask why for everything. And if you don't have the right answer, they're sure as hell going to go right to their phone and find the right answer. And now who looks dumb? You know what I mean? Or who looks like they're incompetent. So you really, like you said, you got to have your T's crossed, your I's dotted. to really kind of focus on, more of just them as a player, the off the field stuff that I really think brings them in. And I think that's what ultimately develops a relationship where they can thrive.
I agree 100%. As much as I get frustrated with players sometimes because they don't run a comeback the right way on the first try, I know what they do on the first try. They see right through your heart the first time they talk to you. They know whether you're authentic or whether you are fake. They know whether you are promoting them and developing them or using them. They know, and you can't escape it.
Yep, and look, and that's from college all the way down. You know
No
what I
question.
mean? I mean, you can just those guys know. When you're quote unquote like, hey, this guy is, he's full of shit. Like he's got no clue what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
Or, that's why you can't, like you said, like you got to understand going into those meetings or going into you better be on point because they're gonna see right through you, whether you understand it, whether you don't. And those days of, pointing fingers and all that other kind of stuff in terms of like, oh, hey, he didn't know, or this guy didn't know, or that's what my coach taught me. And you better be on point because they know.
They know.
How do you communicate? So the depth chart, which is always, a difficult thing, right, with players. And sometimes you have guys that are really close and at receiver, you're using more guys, but still you might have guys that are pretty close and one guy's ahead of another. How do you explain to them like how the depth chart, especially obviously with transferring and those kind of things, which when kids gets frustrated, how do you communicate to them the depth chart and what it takes to be number one on the depth chart, where they stand, those kind of things?
Yep. I think number one, that you have to be willing to have hard conversations. And so, one of the things I express to my players is if I'm going to tell you that I love you, then that means I'm going to tell you the truth. And sometimes the truth isn't always what you want to hear, but it's what you might need to hear. And you need to know what I believe and what I think and why. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. We can have a conversation about it. But you're going to know what I see and why I see it that way. And I'm going to have statistics to back that up and video to back that up and be able for you to understand why I see it that way. So our depth chart is posted every day without fail. And, to kind of a rule of thumb that I've used throughout my career is if someone changes on the depth chart, they don't need to find out about it in the meeting room. They need to find out about it in your office, going up or down. And, if they went up the depth chart, bring them in, say, hey, you've been doing a really good job catching the ball. You've been really precise on your routes. You've blocked really hard and been really effective in the run game. So you're going to get a chance to go run with the twos today. And if somebody's going down, hey, out of your 5 contested catch opportunities yesterday, 4 of them ended up on the ground. And I'd like to see you make more contested catches. It's not because I don't like you. I love you. But at the same time, this is a production business, and we need to make sure that you understand this is not personal, but this is a reflection of what you've put on the field. And you're going to have another opportunity to make the most of it. But this is the why of why you're going to go with the 3s today and not the 2s.
Right.
That's a great point. So you'll bring them in beforehand and just let them know, which I think is really, really good. That's another thing.
Hate that when you showed
that
up
changed
in the
a lot too.
That's
another thing that changed a lot, which is great, which is really great. And those are the things actually, I guess, that are positive about the transfer portal and the way recruiting is now, because it does force you, hey, to really communicate, not shy away from communicating something, things less of a surprise on everything. Because the last thing you want to be as a coach is you're surprised at them, and the next thing they turn around, they hit you with a surprise. I'm out of here, right? So you don't want to, everything is being open and communicated. Just shifted a little bit gears. One of the last questions I had was in recruiting, like. Because you guys are at the first of all, is Lamar going to continue to, because they've really grown the program in the last few years? Is it going to continue to go? Could it go to FBS? Is that something that's in the works, or Southland kind of where they're kind of staying home for now?
I believe that the Southland Conference is our home, and I believe that FCS football is a great niche for us. There's been talks of that outside this building. But I think we're in a really great spot, and I think we're really happy where we are.
Well,
So
I think everybody looks at that as like, hey, that's everybody's goal is to get
because
to
Texas
FBS.
State and UTSA, a
And I
bunch
get
of
it,
teams
but
went
why not?
Division One.
But for them, for Lamar, why not just be the best FCS program in the state of Texas? Like, why not just go dominate that? Go
Yeah.
win the Southland Conference every year. Play your one FBS game, or make the Sam Houston game something like a little bigger than it is, or whatever. Because look, we've seen a lot of upsets come, and now but I do see now that the trend is a lot of these teams. You see your James Madison's going up, your Delaware's going up, right? All these teams going up to FBS. But for me, if you can be a dominant FCS program, you're going to. I mean, we both know some of these FCS programs. Some of the players on these rosters, it's FBS guys, right? The
Right.
level of football, just because it says FCS, is no different. So, I love the fact that, within that building, you guys have a common goal and a focus on, hey, this is where we are, boots on the ground, and let's rock with that. I think that's great mentality.
Yep. Well, let's go. We're gonna go win the Southland Conference and make a run in the playoffs.
Let's go.
What type of player do you guys look for? What is like the and obviously every position is different, but
Right.
what is really what kind of player is a great fit for Lamar?
For me is this. Lamar produces 75% of the American military's auto fuel. All right.
Interesting.
50% of the commercial airline fuel is produced right here in Beaumont, Texas. ExxonMobil, the third largest oil refinery in the world, is right next to our football stadium. This is a place where hurricanes have hit, and the people have stared down these hurricanes and risen up from some pretty bad stuff. And so we want our football players to mimic this community as being, this is a blue collar, hardworking, high character, no flinch in adversity community. And so Beaumont has really been good to us. As far as my family loves it here because of the people that are here. And so with our football program, we want to find great people. And, I will tell you this, and this is part of my recruiting talk with players. This is not a party school. Can you find a party if you want to? Sure. All right. You can at any college campus. But are there going to be nightclubs and bars all around Beaumont, Texas for college kids? There's not. So if that's what your big deal about, if you want to go be a part of fraternity row and go to bars every night, it's probably not your place. But if you want to come work hard every day, get a great education that is going to serve you well for the rest of your life and play a big time brand of Division I college football, this is a good fit for you. All right. So we are a good fit for people who love football and love to work and want to come get a college degree. We are not a great fit for people who are looking for the next college town with the next party.
That makes a ton of sense. And your recruiting base beyond Texas, Louisiana, I'm sure is part of the recruiting base beyond Texas. Well, how far do you guys really reach? I mean, obviously you can all recruit nationally now, and you do to an extent. I looked at your roster, you do. But where is like the major hub for you guys?
I would say that starts with the Golden Triangle being right here locally. We have a number of local players on our team in a really rich area of football. Then, to me, we get to Houston really well. We get to East Texas really well. And then probably second would be the Dallas area and into Louisiana. We're trying to stretch to Austin and San Antonio because there's some really good football players there. Past that, it will probably be more of a coach relationship type recruiting. So, you see some players on our roster from very far outside the state of Texas, and chances are with that, there hasn't been just a random, hey, that guy's in the portal, let's DM him on Twitter and see what we can. That's a coach's number.
Hey, I recruited him when I was here, or something. Yeah,
right.
I see you see a couple. There's a couple Jersey guys for, a couple Boston, from Boston College and whatnot. And then to see, I'm sure your ties back to, Gorman and whatnot have helped in certain ways grab a guy here or two and whatnot. So
no question. I mean, it's like that's what goes back to why relationships are important with high school coaches. When a kid's not happy and looking in the portal, who's the first person they're going to call? Their high school coach. Well, Pete Rosamondo may have been in that high school coach's office 7 years ago, recruiting as the offensive line coach at Rutgers. And they're like, man, that guy was sharp. He's in Texas now. Let me give him a call.
100%, 100%. And that's why, look, and I preach this nonstop, even with, look, as upset as we might be when we lose a recruiter, a guy doesn't come our way, you never burn that bridge, right? Especially with the way this is now, because 2-3 years later, when that guy's unhappy or there's a coaching change and whatnot, if you were that guy that always kind of had his back and were very supportive of him, and not only him, but mom and dad as well, right? And they understood that, oh, that was a good guy, right? Hey, they're going to give you a call and be, hey, guess what? And now you're reaping the fruit of your work that you did 3 years ago. It was like, oh, I lost that guy. But because you kept that relationship, now you can move forward in the process and maybe land a pretty big time player.
Yeah, I mean, really, at the end of this thing, it is obviously really good professionally to keep good relationships and to handle an ending well when a kid tells you he's going to a different school. But really, if we're all involved in football, and when I was a high school coach, I was really happy for all my players that were able to have an opportunity to play college football. If I've changed that, then I'm a hypocrite. So for a kid to get the chance to play college football, whether it's for me or the rival, I still got to be really happy that kid has a chance that a lot of people don't get.
100%, Coach.
It's I couldn't playing football. That's the key, Coach. I can't thank you enough for coming on today.
Thank you. It's fun.
I'm looking forward to following you guys in the season.
Appreciate it, Coach.
You got a fantastic staff there, and so it's only going to continue to really rise and rise and rise. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys compete for that Southland Championship. Thanks so much for coming on, Coach.
Very excited. Thave you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Coach. Appreciate you.
Have a great day,
what you do with the game of football.
All right. All right, that was great. It's great for us to get guys too, as we get guys around the country to get on and talk more football outside of the Northeast and Florida and the Southeast, which we've talked a lot about. But Texas's football tradition is just second to none. So it's really incredible. But
well, I love that you got to touch on that aspect of it. Because how many years we're constantly talking about. Everybody wants to talk about how do we get better at football? How do you get better at football? How do you get better at football? Well, you get better when you invest in the guys that run the football programs and your coaches. And when we have coaches that are leaving this profession because, they just can't handle the amount of workload, right? And now you're talking to Texas high school football coaches that literally that is their job. That's all they do. They're not wearing 50 million hats, coaching 50 million sports, while trying to juggle recruiting and doing all this other stuff. Like, no, the focal point is we are going to invest in this high school football coach and allow him to do what he does and only that. And you're seeing the fruits of their labor with, the level of high school football in Texas.
Absolutely. And that's the truth. They invest in football. All right, well, let's jump off. And I think tomorrow we have one, maybe two. So I'll let you know. We definitely have the Harvard coach on, former Harvard head coach, Tim Murphy, coming on, legend. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, we'll enjoy Florida, and I'll talk to you soon.